Okay. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Tara Tate, a solutions marketing manager at Raider 8. And part of my job is to speak to practice administrators, patient experience professionals, marketing leaders at hospitals and practices, and really understand their day to day. So I am very excited to be speaking, and I'm very glad that y'all have joined. Couple of housekeeping things before we really get in. This session is being recorded. So if you have to step away or if you have a team member that couldn't make it today, you will get a link to this recording after. I will also hold questions until the end. There's a Q&A box in the webinar panel below. So drop your questions in there, and as they come up, or we will save all that to the end. We'll get to as many as we can. So we've got about 30 minutes together, so let's make it worth your time and dive right in. I'm quite excited for this topic. So we have a little St. Patrick's Day theme. I'm still wearing my green. We're talking about don't leave your online reputation to luck and how AI is telling your story without you. And we'll see what that can look like. So, talking about luck a little bit, it is on our mind in St. Patrick's Day week. I want to talk about something that I hear from practice leaders quite a bit. And it's that our patients come from referrals and word of mouth. We don't need online reviews. We don't care about that. And 5 years ago, 2 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago, that would have been a reasonable position. But the data on where the patient journey is headed, it might surprise you. The traditional pipeline from where PCP refers a patient to a practice, the patient calls your practice, they book, woohoo, that still happens. It's still very important, but it's changing. And there's a lot of reasons for that change. One of them is generational. According to the Cleveland Clinic, about 40% of Gen Z patients don't have a primary care physician at all. And 45% of Gen Z is on a high deductible health plan. That's the highest participation rate of any generation. And you typically don't need a PCP referral when you're on a plan like that. So those patients are going straight to search without ever having, a referral. That doesn't mean referrals aren't important or that pipeline is dead. They certainly still are. It just means that it's no longer this whole story. And you might be thinking, well, Gen Z is not our patient base. They might not be now, but they will be, right? As they age into your patient population, that gap is only going to widen. Now, before I throw some more stats at you, I have a quick poll. I want to hear from you. What percentage of your new patients do you think researched your practice online before their first visit? Is it less than 25%, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, or more than 75? We'll give you a few seconds to vote. Really curious about this one. All right. Okay. We've got a good distribution here. Most people are saying 50 to 75%. Some are saying more. Some are saying a little bit less. Here's what the data actually shows. So, Raider 8 recently conducted a survey with over 2,000 patients across the country and found that 84% of them are checking online reviews before choosing a new provider. That's the vast majority, 84%. And they're not just doing a quick glance, they're not just seeing the 4.7 stars and booking straight away. Half of them are reading a minimum of 6 reviews before making a decision. They're doing real research. 61% of patients say that even a personal recommendation from a friend or family member wouldn't change their mind if they saw negative reviews online. That pure referral isn't enough to outweigh an online reputation or a bad online reputation. Last, 45% of patients say they specifically value practices who respond to reviews, regardless of whether the review is positive or negative. That responsiveness signals something important to them. So, this is all before we are even talking about AI, before we even get to how just extra fragmented the search landscape is. Your online reputation can do a lot of work for you, but it also can work against you. So to kind of hone in on this some more, here's what the patient journey used to look like versus what it looks like now. So over on the left, we have before, and over on the right, we have now. The old model was pretty linear, right? So a patient got a referral, they heard about your practice, and they were almost pre-sold, and your practice was the go-to. The patient engagement started at check-in, not before check-in, but it's much more fragmented now. 31%, almost a third of patients are using generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Google AI Overviews, Claude, Perplexity. There's a lot of them out there to research and compare providers before they ever call your office. And local markets are getting more and more competitive. Patient engagement starts at the first time someone does a search for something that might surface your practice. Your online reputation can be your digital front door, and more patients are deciding whether to knock on that door based on what they find before they ever reach your website. So, how is AI making this so much more complicated? Well, we already looked at a third of patients using generative AI tools. 51% of them trust AI generated search results as much or more than standard Google when it comes to searching a doctor. That's half of your prospective patients putting as much weight onto ChatGPT as what a traditional Google search says about you. And 57% say that they're willing to rely on AI tools that summarize and rank doctors based on online information. They're effectively outsourcing that care decision to AI. It's pretty interesting. This all culminates in what we call the modern visibility vortex. On the left, you have a practice, you have multiple providers, multiple locations, and they have to get all their information off across all these different sites, Google, their website, health grades, Glassdoor. This isn't even an exhaustive list. It might be so much more. We'll see other sites when we look at real search results in a moment. But these data sources feed into those AI tools that patients are increasingly using, ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. And those AI tools are what surface recommendations to your patients, to your community, to potential future employees. And what's really important to understand about this is that AI is not doing original research, it's just synthesizing what it finds out there. If you have anything like incomplete profiles or inconsistent information or inaccurate information, the AI is not going to know what story to tell about you, or it's going to tell a completely wrong story about you. Now, this shift is seen across the marketing industry, not just in healthcare. According to Clutch, 63% of marketers plan to increase their GEO, their generative engine optimization budgets in 2026. And GEO investment has pretty much reached parity with traditional SEO and paid search. So 78% of companies now fund GEO and 77.5% fund traditional search channels. It's already really important. And in healthcare, the stakes are extra high because Bright Edge found that 89% of Google searches that include a healthcare keyword now trigger an AI overview. A year ago, that number was 80%. So it has increased 9% in just a year. I don't expect that to go down anytime soon. That means that if someone is searching for a cardiologist, a dermatologist, a primary care provider, an orthopedic surgeon, the AI is almost certainly the first thing that they're seeing. Whether they realize it or not, whether they want it to be or not, it's showing up. So the question isn't whether AI is changing how patients are searching, because it is. The question is whether your practice shows up well, positively, accurately, or at all. Now, if you're still skeptical and you say, well, I'm going to sit back and not do anything about this, here's the cost of inaction. So let's make this really tangible. Imagine if five fewer patients find your practice each month because they used AI search and your practice either wasn't recommended, didn't show up positively, or didn't show up at all. They went to another practice. It's five patients a month. 60 patients a year. The primary care patient lifetime value that we found was 3 grand. So that is a potential lost revenue of $180,000. That is a huge number, and that is just a conservative estimate based on primary care. So if depending on practice size, depending on if you're a specialty practice, surgical practice, something in a very competitive market, that number is going to be significantly higher. So this is why inaction here on GEO has a price, and it's a pretty big one. So let's look at how this actually shows up in live search results. So let's say that I am a parent in New York looking for an eye doctor for my child. And I get a recommendation from a friend for Dr. Grace Leo. So I want to do some extra research. So I'm going to go to Google and ask, what do parents say about Dr. Grace Leo? What we see here immediately, and 89% of the time, is this AI overview in Google. This shows up above any local search, it shows up above any organic results down below. Sometimes I'll see sponsored results and paid results show up above the AI overview, but generally it's the first thing that's going to catch my eye. So I see all these great things about Dr. Leo. That's wonderful. What I'm interested in right now is the sources that it's pulling from. Over on the right-hand side here, Google's going to show where it's getting all this information from. So we see the practice website, that's to be expected. We see US News Health, we see health grades, and then another review site. So there's 4 different sources of information just right there that Google's pulling from to create an image of Dr. Leo. The thing is, the really interesting thing is, I did this exact same search 2 days ago in preparation for this webinar, and I got the same sentiment of an answer, right? All good things, but the sources that Google pulled from were different. So sometimes I'll see it pull from Facebook if it finds information there. Sometimes I'll see it pull from specific Google reviews. It changes every single time that you do this search, right? From person to person, computer to computer, device to device, it changes. And that's what makes this so unpredictable. And you have to kind of control as much as you can to make sure that you show up positively accurately in these types of searches. Now, if I go over to ChatGPT, the story is a little bit different. I asked the exact same question to ChatGPT. I'm going to focus in over on the right side again. We're seeing a community forum that didn't show up in the Google search. The practice website again, we see RateMD's, different review site. We see health grades for different providers than what I'm searching for. Dr. Leo's Rater 8, and then a couple other sites here. We're getting a much more diverse set of information via ChatGPT versus what we saw in Google. Again, that might not always be the case, but it's to show there's a wide variety in the places that an AI tool will pull from. Last search here, exact same search in Claude. Again, practice website. We see that community forum, Rater 8, Vitals is in the mix now, Yelp is in the mix now. We've got health grades, right? Every single LLM is going to show something different. It can be pretty unpredictable. So what do you actually do about this? What is actually our next steps? We're going to talk about our 3 lucky charms of a strong online reputation. There you go. First lucky charm is review volume. AI search tools are trained to identify trust signals just like patients, right? So if you are searching for a provider and you see a practice with 6 reviews versus a practice with 200 reviews, one of those signals a much more reliable, source of patient experiences. The same thing goes for AI, right? Verified high volume reviews act as structured proof points for your credibility. So what you need to do to make this happen is ask every single patient to leave feedback. Every single patient. and showcase ratings on your website. AI models like the ones that we just looked at pull from sources with clear sentiment and clear authority. Verified reviews tell these systems that your practice is reputable and relevant. Your next charm is visibility. Patients and AI systems alike compare multiple sources before deciding who to trust. Discrepancies in ratings, photos, or bios can create confusion or signal unreliability. Again, think about this from the patient perspective. If you look up a doctor and you see 4.8 stars on Google, well, that looks great. But if you see 3.3 on health grades and 2.8 on vitals, well, which one's right here? Which one do you trust? The AI is going to look at it the same way. Which one do you trust? Which source am I going to recommend here when talking about this practice? It's also as simple as naming conventions, right? Did you go through a rebrand and the old brand name is around on the internet somewhere on an old Google business profile? What you need to do here to make yourself as visible as possible is align tone, messaging, and provider bios across all listings, all sites, all listings. Keep your headshots, credentials, and specialties up to date. Use consistent naming conventions for your organization and providers. So that could be as simple as if you have Dr. John Smith on Google, but John Smith MD on Vitals. Those are two different naming conventions. Will the AI know that those are the same person? I don't know, right? That you're going to increase the likelihood that that it does think it's the same person if those are named the same way. If they're both Dr. John Smith or if they're both John Smith MD. Um, that tells the AI that your practice is a reliable source of information, that all these different profiles are a reliable source of information. Last lucky charm is recency and responsiveness. So practices with a steady stream of patient reviews are seen as more active and trustworthy. We already looked at how review volume matters, but if it's review volume, you get 200 reviews, that's great, and all of a sudden you stop building reviews and there's nothing for 2 years, what does that signal to an AI? What does that signal to a patient? Is that practice still open? Are they taking new patients? Do they care about their patients? I don't know, right? And so when you have a steady stream of online reviews, those are seen as more active and trustworthy by AI tools. Stale profiles, again, if you did a big review building push and then stopped, that can push your rankings down in organic rankings as well as AI search results. So you need to generate frequent genuine feedback from your patients. You do this by automating review requests after every visit. Use short, simple surveys to capture authentic sentiment. Respond to all feedback, positive, negative, or otherwise. We saw that patients really do value that. You can do that in a HIPAA compliant way. And that signals transparency. It's really a signal of again that the practice is active, but also that your practice is willing to reach out, make things right, do what's needed, in a HIPAA compliant way to respond to those reviews. The more current and balanced your reputation, the more likely that AI tools are to highlight your practice in patient searches. So I want to leave you with 3 things that you can do today, next week, at some point, right? These are things that do not require a big budget. They don't require any fancy tools. You can start these right now. The first one is go audit your directory listings. Go up on health grades, vitals, WebMD, Google, etc. Find your practice and then each of your providers. Look for things like, are those listings accurate? Are they active? Are they outdated? Are they missing information? Make sure that all those are the same, that all those have the same information. It's a big reason that AI tools will skip a practice entirely. Number 2, Pull up your review volume for the last 12 months. Again, on all those different sites, most of them will let you see how many reviews you've gotten in the past 1 month, 2 months, etc. Look for the trend there. Is there a steady stream of reviews? Are there peaks and valleys? Is there a big cliff where you stop building reviews? AI rewards that steady influx of patient reviews, not just a burst in silence since then. The last one, respond to your 5 most recent reviews. You can go do that right after this session. Whether they are glowing reviews, mixed reviews, negative reviews, responding demonstrates an active stewardship of your online presence. And that matters to both the patients that are not using AI and the AI tools when they are actively surfacing information about your practice to a patient that is using an AI tool. These three things, they're not going to fix everything overnight, but they'll give you a good start in making sure that you're more in control of what AI is saying about your practice and about your providers. Now, before we go into questions, as a thank you for signing up today, we're giving you early access to our latest resource. This is an ebook that expands on a lot of what we covered in today's session, especially how patient search is evolving in the age of AI and what it takes to stay visible in all those different places that patients might be searching. It's also a great takeaway to share with your team members if they couldn't attend today, just so everyone's aligned on where things are headed and how to respond. Inside, you'll find some ways that Rave, the Raider 8 visibility engine, helps you strengthen your visibility, build trust, and show up more consistently in AI-driven search experiences. We'll send the link along with the webinar recording in a follow-up email, so keep an eye on your inbox over the next couple days after the weekend. All right, it is time to open it up for questions. As we close out, any questions, comments about what we touched on today? How do you respond to reviews in a HIPAA compliant way? So the main thing, I'm not, giving exact advice here because I'm not a lawyer, but I am, you can respond to reviews without acknowledging that somebody was ever a patient at your practice. The key is to keep things kind of vague, right? You don't want to say, oh, well, that's not how that happened. It's more of a, oh, we're sorry to hear about this experience. Please contact us at XYZ so we can make it right. It's more giving somebody an option to reach out versus directly acknowledging whether or not they were a patient at your practice. From your experience, with what AI platforms are you seeing people/patients use the most? So in that survey I mentioned earlier, where we looked at over 2,000 patients and their responses, we saw that people were mostly using ChatGPT and Gemini. Gemini is the AI that powers Google's AI overviews. The other ones, they're still important, but there's kind of a mix of uh, of usage there. With numerous providers, do you know if there are ways to edit WebMD, Vitals, or Yelp pages? I'm not 100% sure on that. We can find an answer for you, Virginia. Yeah, we can find an answer for you. What types of questions beyond the would you recommend the practice should we be asking? That's a good question, and I think it's really dependent on what you're trying to improve in your practice. So if you kind of have a feeling that there's a wait time issue, or that there's a doctor that might have a bedside manner issue, those are the types of questions that you can start asking. Okay, how would you rate your wait time experience? How was your check-in experience? How was Do you feel like all your questions were answered? It's really dependent on what you would like to improve in your practice. So, Michael, that's a good question too. How many questions should we limit to? So, at Raider 8, all of our surveys are limited to 5 questions maximum. It's a rate your provider question and then 4 additional questions. And that is so things are as easy as possible for patients to respond to. You don't want a 27 question, super long thing that nobody wants to slog through that. So as short as possible to try to get yourself as much information as possible, as good of a response rate as possible. How do you manage the simultaneous challenge of increasing the quantity of reviews and keeping up with responding to them? Yeah, I mean, that's a double-edged sword. So if you start increasing a lot of reviews, that's great. Well, now you have 200 reviews to respond to. In a platform like Rave, you're able to automate those responses to Google reviews via, they can be AI generated responses according to your own specifications. They can be templated responses. That helps quite a bit with that review volume. So you don't have to worry about it. It's kind of done for you. All right. Any other questions? Oh, I think I opened my Q&A here. Mm. Okay, how do you rate the importance of individual doctor reviews versus practice reviews? We have historically focused on our brand, not the individual doctors, especially because if you search the doctor, you'll find the brand. That's a really good question. So if you do search the doctor and you see the brand, you might also see their that pract or sorry about that provider's Google listing. And if the brand overall has good reviews, but the provider has again 2.8 stars, that's where you see that disconnect between which one's right here? Is the practice good, but the provider bad? It starts to bring up questions again for an AI. It brings up questions for prospective patients. So it is still very important to build up the reputation of providers as well as the overall brand, even if that brand is already showing up positively. In the Q&A, I've got how do we manage reviews on multiple platforms? Does your platform allow us to manage reviews on other platforms or just Rate? So within the Rave platform, you're able to see your reviews from Google, Vitals, Healthgrades, WebMD, and Rate surveys. You're all in one place. So that's kind of how you'd solve that challenge of, well, I have to go look at Healthgrades for 5 different providers, and I have to go look at Vitals for 5 different. Rate brings it all in one place. Are most questions ratings from 1 to 5? Yes. So within the Rave platform, all of our survey questions are 1 to 5 ratings. As again, as easy as possible for a patient to leave a rating. All right, I think we're just at about time here. Feel free to email any additional questions to info@raider8.com or visit raider8.com. Thank you all so much for attending, and it was a pleasure speaking with y'all today.